Which U.S. cities are headed for collapse in the next decade? Salt Lake City if it continues to dry up. Chicago. New York City, Louisiana, San Fran. Chicago is 50-50. Detroit already collapsed. Democrat crapholes like Seattle, Portland, San Fran, LA. I'm thinking Seattle for a variety of factors. It went from being the fastest growing city in the US to experiencing net population loss in less than 5 years. Its primary industry, tech, is slated for collapse. Many businesses like Amazon, Nike, and Boeing are moving elsewhere with no other companies willing to replace them. Additionally, since 2020 each year has set new records for crime. I've lived here for over 20 years and I'm moving to Texas this year. Philadelphia is going to be posh and the new spot the financial elite will live. This is arguably every western city that depends on the Colorado River for water. All of them. All of them. None of these cities in the US have any real economy or literally any reason to exist anymore. No, eating at Instagram burger bars and renting out Airbnbs is not a real economy or industry. Won't Las Vegas literally run out of water? None of them, sadly. Propped up by the Fed. Upstate New York cities will go from shitting the bed to laying face down in the sewers. Detroit 2.0 incoming. Everything about LA is basically one giant top signal. Old showbiz is a complete joke these days. Ironically, Californian big tech social media / YouTube stuff killed LA's reason for existence the same way killing the auto industry did in Detroit. That said, San Francisco will survive because of big tech and NYC will survive because unlike LA it is an actual metropolis and it's where the money changers operate their black magic. Every city round the Gulf of Mexico. I feel like Phoenix is absolutely screwed from just about every front. The ones in the southwest with water troubles. Downtown Philly is about to explode in prices with New Yorkers moving there. The entire southwest is turbo screwed. I know a lot of people who moved from LA to Phoenix and they say it's all just the same problems. This area of the country is literally not gonna make it. I know a lot of people are moving out east. The collapse of certain cities might be prolonged by the stimulation of West Coast people escaping the hellfire. Minneapolis. If there's a Carrington event, then every single one. Every single shit heap that's in the Sunbelt. The ones that are going to get screwed by climate change. Texas, Florida, and all of the Southwest. Societal collapse is imminent. My life sucks. Look at the percentage of black and brown immigrants. Looks at Amarimut demographics.
Ha 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 ha, all of them will turn into Brazil while Europe turns into Pakistan.
Future looks great. Portland proper is in an active collapse stage as we speak. The economic drain leaving town has accelerated massively since 2020, much like San Francisco was over the last decade. A couple will be nuked soon, so it may be all of them. New York City is the financial capital of the world, so no. LA is the entertainment capital of the world, so no. Chicago is the most diversified economy in the US, so no. The ones that look like they'll be failing are Bakersfield, Fresno, Baltimore, and Memphis. Half the cities along the Mississippi and Missouri River and all those manufacturing cities around Pennsylvania, Ohio, Illinois already sort of collapsed decades ago when all of the industrial and manufacturing jobs and money disappeared. It might be familiar for a lot of these cities like San Francisco and Seattle, now that offices are moving away from the middle of these cities and people are working from home, and in general new tech just makes it easier to automate things and have less workers. Even New York seems half dead already. Maybe these cities in America are just going to lose steam for a few more years. When I was in San Francisco last year, it was like a ghost town, nobody in the street, nothing open after 5 p.m., it was just weird. But still around 800,000 people live crammed in there. I guess they just sit inside all the time. Similar in Manhattan, it was kind of busy during prime hours but nothing like it was just a few years ago before 2020. We're in the middle of an era of sloth and negativity. Maybe in another decade we'll have some new boom like we had in the late 90s/early 2000s with all that new tech and jobs and media. Hopefully the greater Phoenix metro area, and hopefully it bites many coastal liberals in the ass. San Francisco. All of them. A lot of major US cities have been in soft collapse for the last 20 years, mostly the Northeast/West Coast blue state crapholes, NYC, LA, SF, Chicago, they call it Chirac for a reason, Philly, Seattle, Portland. The sad fact of the matter is that wealth has been plundered out of America for the last 50 years or so at a staggering pace. The cities are just starting to catch up to the fact that no one can afford to live there and soon even work there. Why even be in the cities when all of them are in clear decay with crumbling infrastructure? It's a joke. Of course, with the advent of the internet/COVID accelerating work from home, employers still would rather have their wage slaves working for them in office. How many of those skyscrapers in SF, LA, Chicago are fully booked? Why stay there when most of America lives in suburbia anyway? Minneapolis/St. Paul are going the way of Johannesburg. I grew up there in the 90s. My kindergarten class had 2 Asians and a black kid in it. Everyone else was white. By the time I graduated high school, half the class was Somalian. It's wild looking back on how quickly they can shift demographics. Miami brothers, are we gonna make it? The hour of judgment for Republic of Mystery Babylon, the Great, the mother of harlots, is at hand. None of them you pinko. Austin's infrastructure can't handle the number of people moving there. That's bad only for those who live there, right? They're still worth visiting, right? Atlanta, Georgia, Austin, Texas, Nashville, Tennessee. SF and LA are effed. San Francisco, Portland, Austin. The thing about the cost of living being so much lower in Texas is that it invites the worst ghetto dregs that flee from coastal inner cities getting gentrified / priced out from previous standards of living. You see this with Houston and Dallas the most. The kind of clientele coming is like what happened after Katrina, only this time it's from every state and even the lower rings of foreign countries, and it's a constant wave of migration. Sure, it's cheap as heck to raise a family and buy a house down here, but what you offer is what you get when it comes to economic opportunism. Is the trade-off worth the extra savings a couple decades from now? My heckin' barcade with exposed brick walls needs to be within a 10-minute walk of where I live. Sad that biz is full of urbanate bug men. SF, NYC, LA, Boston, Chicago. The blue bubbles are already teetering on the edge. SF Bay Area. Entire region is propped up on inflated tech salaries. Work from home has made it so people don't need to live in expensive metro areas to have high-paying jobs. Tech has had significant layoffs in the past year. AI is going to replace a bunch of jobs in the future. In the short term, 6% interest rates are disproportionately hurting expensive metro areas. The West Coast is in dire need of a collapse, honestly, like a Detroit needs to happen to better prepare this area of the country for expansion. Really, the issue with the entire West Coast is that it was planned like crap. Every house is slammed together in a bunch of one-room, one-floor sheds that are close together but still separate. Wide, not tall. So yeah, sure, the population of LA is 7 million, but it consumes a land area closer to the size of New Jersey. So you literally have to drive across the state of New Jersey every single day just to get to work and back. The only way to fix any of this is if entire neighborhoods go belly up in the coming years, which I believe is what they're trying to do. If they can collapse California, they can go in and redesign / rezone so that way in 30 years the state can start to grow in a more sustainable way. The West Coast can't exist in the form of expansion, which is suburb from the city center outward. There has to be a dense center and then the suburbs can start. This urban planning where the suburb starts as soon as the skyscrapers end is effing stupid, and places are paying the price. All of them. Define collapse. Remember the 2020 riots? Entire cities turned into Third World War zones. And that was just because the TV told them to be angry. Now imagine how much worse it'll be when people have real reasons to riot over. I don't buy the work from home meme. I think economy is a Ponzi past its burst stage. The only industry that America still has an edge in is IT, and I don't know how long that's going to continue if San Fran fails. You need cities that foster communities. Then these communities can create competitive advantage and bring prosperity for everybody. The vast majority of this continent we occupy is a sweltering subtropical swamp blasted semi-annually by hurricanes, or a desert wasteland, or a hideous plains tundra / cornfield. The only nice places in the US are parts of California and the Pacific Northwest, see problem 1, and parts of the East Coast, see problem 2. There's nothing here. 300-something million people, and all there is circled a lot of a dozen times trying to find parking in some big box store and hope undesirables don't vandalize your car while you're out. Downtown Phoenix is pretty much like your average city. If the cartel truly has its claws on the entire state government, then the metro area may or may not crumble. We have a lot of notable businesses moving in here on the outskirts, so the investments are serious. Every West Coast city is an absolute dump though. Portland is disgusting because it's constant homelessness, trash and graffiti, all beneath the most silly BLM and gay idolatry banners possible. California cities are arguably the worst because it's still legal to steal up to $1,000 from whatever store you want. The homeless and joggers everywhere else keep to themselves, but Californians have an attitude about them. New Orleans is also turbo-effed. New York. More and more businesses closing shop daily. Jewelords too greedy to bother lowering rent prices, would rather keep retail front vacant for years. Many offices have been emptied either from startups going bust or everyone moving to work from home solutions. Fort Worth is infinitely more enjoyable of a place to live than Dallas. Hard to overstate this or even find the proper words to convey it. We have to balkanize or have some sort of lay in the bed you made interval visa system.